Hi everyone, it's Nicole and I am back with another layout using the Roundabout kit from Studio Calico, the June kit. And I took out a couple of templates from the Crafters Workshop and they are well-rounded and mini well-rounded. And I'm going to use a pattern paper as the background, but this is a little bit more, it almost looks like, a plain cardstock because it only has lines throughout. So I'm going to use that. I didn't know if I want to use the big 12 by 12 template or the small 12 by 12 template, but I decided to use the flower on the bigger 12 by 12, and I'm going to use pale tomato, and I'm using a sponge, and then I'm going to use butter yellow, and I'm just going to color. I colored the center of it a little bit with the pale tomato, and then I'm going to put a little bit of yellow, and it's just to kind of go with the pattern paper. There's yellow roses or yellow flowers of some kind, not roses, I guess, and then with a yellow center. So it's just to kind of continue that theme of, the flowers on the page. So I'm going to do that flower in 3 spots with the same colors with pale tomato and the butter bar from Hero Arts. And then I just used a bunch of the pre-made scraps that I had done. And the chevron was the 6 by 12 that I had cut up. But I'm going to cut it down because I find 6 by 12 is just a little too big. But before I do that, I'm going to cut down one of the photos 4 by 4 so that the 2 pictures together only spanned 10 inches. Now these pictures are one is of my daughter and one is of myself. She had a competition last year in Niagara Falls. There was one of the rides that they had gone on, and while they were inside, I sat on this bench and they had this dummy, sitting there, and I thought it would be funny if I sat right close to it so that when she would come out, and I know my daughter so well that she'd be like, who is mom sitting next to? And that's exactly what she thought of when she did come out. And then she came around the corner and then started to laugh because it looked like I was snuggled right up to him. And then she wanted to take pictures, both of us, with him on the bench. So that's what the journaling is going to be all about. And now I'm just playing around with the different sizes of pattern papers that these are already pre-cut, so I'm just kind of trying to see where I could make everything fit. And some of the chevron pink paper, it's not long enough, so I just kind of took 2 pieces just to kind of see what it would look like, and I know I'm going to end up piecing it together underneath. And I know this is too big, so I'm going to cut off a 1/2 inch on each side so that I don't lose, all of the pink and orange or all of the yellow. I wanted to keep those colors in there. So now I'm going to cut down that chevron to about 1.5, and I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to span it across the layout. And I'm going to use that, I guess it's pinkish reddish, paper, and I'm just going to make 2 little paper borders, I guess. And I'm going to play with the layers for a little bit. And then we got those frames in the kit this month, and I really haven't used them that much. So I want to make sure that I did use them. So I'm going to use 5 of them on this page. So I'm trying to find something that I could put in behind that frame so I could do my journaling on. So I'm taking out some 4 by 6 cards from Project Life, and I end up deciding I had another piece of scrap that had that exact same paper as the background, so I decided to use that for where I was going to do my journaling. And I'm going to stack up those frames one on top of the other, just so one, I could use them up, and I didn't want to just use one. And so I figured if I was going to use 3, 4, I decided to use 5 of them. So I ended up using quite a bit of them. And I'm going to make a little cluster at the bottom left of the page. And then I'm going to put something in behind each of the little Polaroids so that they're all filled up. And you can't see the background paper, but you know, the pattern paper that I decide to put in behind. And I know I want to use some buttons on this page. At first I tried for those little resin flowers that we got in last month's kit, but they're just way too bulky. So I'm going to take them off and I'm going to use some pink buttons instead. Those are great for 3D projects, but I find for your layouts, they're just a little too bulky. So now I'm pulled out some of the brads that we got in last month's kit, and I'm trying to use them up. And so I'm kind of keeping them close and making sure that I take them out every layout and to see if there's any that I could use, because I kind of forgot them last month and didn't use them, so I want to make sure I use them this month. And now I'm going through this month's kit because I don't want the same thing to happen this month that has happened the last few months, is that I forget about stuff. So I'm taking out the buttons that we got in this month's kit. I took out that resin with the camera, but I don't find the pink right here on the camera. It looks like it coordinates quite well, but in person it's a much brighter pink, like almost like a neon pink, and it just doesn't coordinate. So now I'm going through my digital prints that I got done up at Staples. And I'm just looking for anything that is kind of, peachy or pink. And I'm going to pull it out. And then I'll just have, a whole bunch of stuff on my page. And then I'm going to decide exactly what is going to end up making it to the page. So now I'm looking for labels that, would coordinate with the page, like a pink. And I'm going to have the hardest time to find it. I'm going to take this die cut here because I've already cut into it. So I want to make sure that I use it up and it doesn't go to waste, because I can't use it as a whole die cut anymore, because I punched out some butterflies, I believe, out of it. And now I'm looking at my labels and I'm looking for some pink labels. I end up finding a couple that coordinate with the page. I'm going to spend a few minutes on this. So while I'm doing that, this is, I believe, the 7th layout using the Roundabout kit, and it took me an hour and 36 minutes. And what are we today? Monday. At the end of last week, I ended up getting sick, and it took me a few days to get over it, and I still did my night shifts and everything. So I ended up just working and coming home and going straight to bed. So this layout actually took like the whole 4 days to complete. I would just do a little bit every day, and some days I didn't even do anything. I would just go to bed and wake up when it was time to go to work and go to work. So I'm a little behind on my kits, but I'm hoping I have 3 days off starting today, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to get a few layouts done. So I'm still going through my stuff and trying to figure out, what else I could use. And now I'm looking at some of those alphas that we had gotten from Basic Gray in one of the kits last month. So I'm just trying to see, what word I could spell using those letters, because I've picked through them quite a bit now. I've kept them right there, right beside my work area to make sure that I use them, because the month that I got them, I barely used them. So now I want to make sure that they get used up. I'm trying to see if I want to use some cork letters with that, but I decide against it. I did take out those little alphas that we had gotten from Studio Calico, but I'm going to decide against those too. I'm going to even try to color them in, but they're just too dark. I don't like them, so I'm going to switch them out. I love those letters, but any letters that you have to go through it like one by one, oh, that's why I love the thicker so much. It's so much easier. I mean, I still use them, but it is a little bit more work to go through the whole bag, and to look for the letter that you need. So now I'm going to take out the alphas. Oh, I guess I still not decided if I'm going to use those corks or not, but I find the lettering is too big. So then I'm going to take out the alphas that we got in this month's kit, and I'm going to put back those letters that I didn't end up using last time before they get lost. And I'm going to spell out the word friend, because the title of this page is just Our New Friend. And I still think I'm going to use those little alphas, but I'm going to switch them out, and I'm going to take out some October Afternoon. And the color, I believe, is Sherbert. Now maybe if I did the same thing with those little wood letters that I do with the cork, with the Calico white, maybe then they wouldn't be so dark. Maybe next time I'll try that out and see if I like it better. So now I'm still looking. I know I don't want those little letters to, finish off my title. So I'm going to start looking through my alphas and see, what else I'd like. It looks like my camera might have moved because it's way off. So now I'm going to use my ATG gun, and I'm going to add that little film strip, I guess, or Polaroid frame onto that pattern paper. And I'm also going to add it to this digital print that I had bought from Studio Calico, and it's a heart. And then I'm going to use the rest of it for another one. I'm just going to patch it up and make it fit. Just because I want two of the frames to have that kind of grid-like pink, texture. And then the other two, I'm going to, that die cut that I had kind of used up last time, I'm going to use the frames, and I'm going to make a background with that right here. So instead of, so that it's wasted, I'm just going to use it that way. It's going to take me a few minutes to figure out how to patch it up so that it looks like it's, somewhat fits together, but it doesn't really matter because in the end I end up covering, most of it up anyway. So now I'm going to glue that on, and then I just take my scissors and I cut around. So it doesn't have to be precise because you don't see the back anyway. And I'm going to use the last frame, and I'm going to put the other little heart right in the middle, just to kind of keep that heart thing, theme going. And I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut around. And at this point, I thought I wanted to use that little flag, but I move it around quite a bit and I can't figure out where exactly I want to put it. So I ended up not using it, but I end up using something else. So I'm just going to use some Scotch tape and kind of patch it together so it doesn't move around on me when I try to, glue the frame on top of it, so I can cut around it. And then I'm going to use my ATG tape, glue it on, and then I'm going to cut it apart. So my camera must have moved again. I'm going to have to have to look at that again. So at this point, think I'm feeling pretty good with, all the embellishments that I have, and I believe I'm going to start gluing everything down here in a few minutes. I'm going to add some of the tags in behind some of the spots just to kind of tie everything in. So I did fuss quite a bit with this page, with the placement and of everything, and just trying to figure out where I wanted everything to kind of sit. But at one point you just have to say, okay, just start gluing everything down, and then you can always remove it. It's not, especially with the ATG, you can move it around a bit. So now I'm going to start gluing the strips onto that bigger 5x6 strip. I'm going to take my ruler just to make sure that everything kind of is equal on both sides, because it's little strips, so it's harder to align. And my ATG gun ran out, so I'm going to use my this to that dot adhesive from American Craft. And I'm going to glue everything down. So I just kind of put a whole bunch of glue and then kind of put it over the layers so that it kind of stuck all the layers to my background 5x12 paper. And then I'm just going to take my quick dry adhesive and I'll just squirt some glue in behind to make sure that everything is kind of where I want it to be. I'm just trying to figure out exactly where the pictures need to go so that the frame is not going to, hang over the edge of the page. And the bigger one is where I'm going to put my journaling. Still fussing with the different layers and stuff. So as you can tell, the bottom layers are still not glued down, so I'm going to eventually glue them down. And those little squares kind of got mixed up, and I didn't want the two hearts next to each other, so I realized before I glued them down permanently what I had done, so I switched them out. Still having a hard time with the layers, trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. I'm looking at more die cuts to see what else I could bring in. And that's sometimes like a problem that I have, is I find I get so much more done if you just go ahead and do it, instead of moving and moving and moving and moving and not committing to something. And that's what I found, that ever since I started recording, doing pages, I used to spend a couple of days on a layout, but then when I started recording, it was like, okay, well, you got to make decisions and you got to move stuff along. And I found like I've cut down, the process by quite a bit, from, a couple of days to a couple of hours, or under. But I still find that still now, sometimes I still kind of shuffle things around when I should just, just go with an idea and just go with it. And at this point, I'm finally going to start, committing to the idea, and I'm going to start gluing everything down. And like I said, with the ATG, tape or like the this to that dot adhesive, you can still pick stuff up and change your mind. So at this point, I'm going to start gluing down my title. At this point, I still have those little wooden letters out, but I believe real soon I'll be digging through my stash and trying to find some pink letters to go with it. And there they are. And they're from October Afternoon Mini Market, Sherbert. And they just coordinate with this page really well. So I'm going to use some glue dots and glue down the buttons. And then I'm going to start, putting holes in and adding the brads. And that bigger brad kind of just says hi. And so I thought that was, kind of appropriate. And I'm still trying to put that tag there somewhere. And it was mainly because it was pink. And it was part of the brads that I wanted to use from last month's kit. So once I realized it just, didn't go with it, then I'm going to start looking for something else to put there. So then I saw those little flags that were in the buttons that we got in this month's kit. And it just coordinates so well. It's blue, some blue, some yellow, and some pink. So at this point, I'm not really sure what I'm looking for. I looked down for a second to look at the page and I didn't see where I was at. I guess I went looking for some pink paisley hearts, and I'm going to color it in pale tomato. And the reason being is one of the frames had a heart, the other one had another heart. So I just wanted to put that third heart so that I would have 3 hearts. So I'm just going to put it on the top frame. And now I'm going to cover my photos. I'm going to add a couple of Glimmer Glaze, and they are from Tattered Angels. And I got them at Simon Says Custom Crops. I've seen them at A Cherry on Top. Pretty much everywhere you can get them. Just make sure you look under Tattered Angels. And it is Glimmer Glaze, and it comes in oodles of colors. And now I'm looking for a journaling pen, and I'm going to do my journaling right away. Every page that I know what I want to say right away, I'm going to try and do the journaling right away, because then at the end of the month when the kit is done, I have to sit there and do, 10, 15 of them that I have to do some journaling. And I have to admit, I do journaling, but it is not my favorite part. I know it's important, and I know, but it's totally not my favorite part. So now I realize that there's quite a few, of my papers that are not glued down, so I better add some glue in behind. And then I'm going to show you, close-ups and a few pics. And there's a few places you can see some close-up pictures. You can go to 2 Peas in a Bucket or Studio Calico. In the members gallery, just look for Nicole Jones 911, and I upload all the pictures there. Or you can join me on my Facebook group, and we share some layouts there. And the link is in the description below. So that's it. The page is done. So thanks for watching. Bye.